Modern versus ancient. As you know, I'm always curious. I was watching a PBS program about technology and the stresses and concerns and the overwhelm that so many people are experiencing today. So I thought I would take a look at, well, traditional versus modern. And I'm really saying ancient. I'd say use the word traditional because it is sort of pre-industrial revolution. Traditional. These refer to societies or elements of societies that are generally small scale. They're derived from indigenous and often ancient cultural practices. Modern refers to the Industrial Revolution mode of production or the development of large-scale colonial societies. And both of these coexist in the world today. They're still around. Even though there's no such thing as a completely traditional or a completely modern society at the present time, the collision between the two forms of social organization has a great significance for everyone alive today. Even the idea of separating society or daily life into components, economy, religion, politics, or social relations, does not make sense in the traditional worldview. The domination of the Western society's view of how way things are, and that is taught by military and economic forces, may be a historical fact at the present, but it's not necessarily a permanent state of affairs. In the traditional societies, the simple division of labor via age and sex, cooperation, units of production by family, by clan, by village, age set, organic, social units, units of distributing consumption. Consumption was to satisfy basic needs or ritual needs. Little transformation of produce, it was the basic stuff. Crafts, metallurgy, cooking, tasks were organic and they were interdependent to each other. In traditional societies, it was about this village might have a specialty in producing a certain kind of weaving, another a certain kind of pottery, another might have a different kind of wool or a weaving with wool. Others were blacksmiths or tinsmiths or miners in the sense of digging out of the earth the tin, the silver, and the gold. It was all interdependent. You bought your tin plates or tin utensils from the peddler from the tin village. You might have bought your blanket or your loose weave cotton from a laborer from that village or from the small community that wove cloth and dyed it and made significant, perhaps traditional, spiritual clothing. It was all interdependent, and there was no such things as single units for single people being fully isolated. Everyone was part of a family. It was grandmother, a grandfather, father, grandchildren, cousins might all live in the same community, perhaps even in the same lodge house or in very large homes. Some lived in very small homes with large numbers of people. Only the royalty or the religious or dominant caste system put it in a hierarchy. And the great majority of people would have been these working people, these craftsmen, these farmers, these tiller of the land, the cutter of woods. And their names reflected what they did. Now, in a modern society, production is actually no longer for subsistence or to provide what is needed. It is for profit, for growth, and it is for money. Complete division of labor, specialization, mechanic, and units, they're not social. They are units of production, units of distribution, mechanical, commercial, corporate, consumption needs, and it is competitive over another. It is about consumerism. It has a high degree of commoditization, and it's always dependent upon another person's skills or another organization's skills. People can often work in a cubicle without really knowing the other person who's in the other cubicle, or they're on a production line where the pace of the production is so fast that all they have time for is focusing down on the product that they make. One part of the product might come from Taiwan, another part might come from Memphis, USA, another part might come from Northern Ireland, and these parts are put together. Its drive is consumption, is to provide goods for consumption. Now, on the other side of it, those of us that work in this modern society don't have an attachment to our food. What we have an attachment to is our grocery store, and we have to generate enough energy or money to go buy our food. And our food is not done by us or by a part of our family. The food is in fact from an industrial farm run on the same kind of scale as they use to build an iPhone. It's got the same elements in it. So we're not really connected on a personal level to very much. In the material world, traditional culture, there is a slow accumulation of production. So in other words, I, over the winter, and my family weave a rug for selling. Now, we sell or trade for the things that we don't have. I might be the local woodcutter, and in the winter, I sell or trade my wood for food or meat or some trade that might be for cloth, or it might be for new axe heads. It's any number of things. But there's no formal contract. There's no labor for this. It is about interrelated kinship, age, and ritual. I bought from this man's father. That father died, so now I buy from the son. It is connected. And when I pass, maybe they will buy from my son or my spouse. The division of the labor inside the house, and the house might be 10 or 11 people in the extended line of the family. It might be that this person is cooking, this person is collecting the herbs, this person is looking after the potatoes, or this person is looking after the family goats. It's all interactive. And there are very few possessions. There's no similar standard of living to what we experience in this modern world. In the modern world, resources are not always used for social ends. In other words, in the ancient or older world, my work contributes to the sort of economic well-being of my family. There's no other reason to do it. It's the possessions that I have are what everyone has. So if there's an axe, it's owned by everybody in the family. Then in the modern world, I can own vast amount of stuff that I can keep just for myself. It's inequitable and there are resources that are locked up in massive amounts of wealth in our modern world. We have 100 people that own more than the rest of the world. I mean, it's crazy, this modern idea, this modern world. In our modern world, we pay for goods and service on a contract base. We might even do work on the side from our regular job because that's the only way we can survive. You know, the cult of wealth and private ownership, it really makes it very difficult because it can accumulate and accumulate in our modern world with distinct economic spheres and distinct domains where, in sense, one person could literally own all of the resources of one state, or the equivalent of one state, or one province of Canada, or one region of the UK, or one village. In the ancient model, the commons were a place where literally common folk could use as a garden, where you would plow and sow your oats or wheat or rye or rice or such, and you would harvest it together, and it was owned by the village that was beside the common. So it's very different. The wealth belonged to those helping to create it, and it was shared evenly. Yes, there was in the ancient society an upper level, but it was mostly there for the spiritual health or ill health of the society. Yeah. So it's almost impossible to sort of compare the cultural and social values of the two on a financial sense. Culturally, the indications are that the ancient world was richer and people had better connections with their society and with the people around them because they worked with them. They knew the people in their village, they knew them by name, and they had a connection with them. As I was watching one news media outlet on television, and I do watch a lot of them because I'm curious, I noticed that the number of ads that were there to look more beautiful, to handle anxiety. I mean, the number of drug company ads for what is wrong and the ailments of a modern society was stunning. In the hour, I counted 9 ads for medication to handle various medical issues that I don't think would have occurred in the ancient model of society. It's very difficult, and I'm very curious what you think about that. I mean, loneliness is a major issue in our modern society. People being lonely, going to the internet and following into one of these strange QAnon or other mysterious, I want to say, very strange belief systems, and becoming radicalized, becoming entranced by it. Now, you didn't have that in the ancient system, and so that's wrong to try and compare. But I think connection of people helped. I think there was more tolerance. There's no indications in ancient cultures that they didn't like gays, didn't like rights, didn't like left, didn't like lesbians, that they had weird, deep, strong, violent reactions to you obeying the religious code of the time. They just didn't, because people knew each other. I think the greatest challenge for our modern society is we generate so much that we actually don't need, and we have generated so many things that we don't need, but they are sold and exchanged, and they're part and parcel of what goes on for us. It's part of our world. Now, what if we took this idea, me and my curiosity, I think a great deal about what if. It has become my conversation piece at the dinner table sometimes. Well, what if we did this? So here, I'm going to put it to you. What if we took the best from the community side and the interrelated side of the ancient society and pushed them over and joined them with the best of the modern society? I mean, I think we started to see that when we had COVID, which just devastated the world. It changed it forever, although some people are trying to go back to it, but it has changed our society. One of the things that I've seen happen is that now my wife and I both work at home now. Well, not all the time. Sometimes I'm away, sometimes she's here, and sometimes she's gone to the office. But it gives us a greater time together. It may sound simple, but you see, my coffee mate is my lovely spouse, and we have coffee together. We have time together. We are not spending, either of us, an hour going to or from the office. So it is free for us to use with our relationships. But it went a different place for me I did not expect, because I was isolated from my friends in Vancouver and Ohio and Texas and around even here in Victoria. We would meet on Zoom. We would meet more often on the phone or using FaceTime. And yet in a funny way, because we were doing that, we actually increased our face-to-face or connection time. It actually helped bring the community back together. For a short while, I went down and joined one of those open offices where everybody buys a space in the office or rents a space in the office. And I got to meet some great writers and some great tech people, and we would talk, and it was like a little community, a little online community, but this was real. This was in one space. There was one large room with a coffee area in one area, and then around the edges, some private offices, but most people were working on their laptops. Now, I see that in various coffee shops and in libraries, people working away on their computers. But what I notice is that when they're working on their computers, they're kind of isolated. Their relationship is with the computer. Now, I don't want to go back to the days where I had to chop down a whole a whole tree and quarter it and then chop it down into logs for the fire. I physically couldn't do it, and it's hard work. There are special ways of doing that now. But I would like to bring into the modern world the social aspects and connections and affability of the ancient world with the modern technologies. I was reading about this whole idea of shared homes for people who retire. People of diverse backgrounds, instead of sitting in a large resource called a home by themselves with no community around them, with their family perhaps on the other side of the town or in a different state or a different province or even a different country. In shared homes, everybody gets their bedroom and they get their little small, I would say, social room and bathroom. But they can join together in the tasks of running a home, maybe cooking and washing and doing the most things that are normally social. I think it's a wonderful idea. The fact that your family is elsewhere, but you can have a community, you can create a community here. And if you all get along and you've sold off your other homes, you then have greater resources financially and are more secure, and you've got shared expenses. But you have then a shared life. Same with offices. Why do we need these giant towers for a bank or for an insurance corporation? Because most of the work that are done now in this is information processing, which can be done on a laptop. It doesn't have to be in a building. Now, I don't know if you know this, but two of the most polluting things to produce in the world is steel in coke furnaces, which pump up massive amounts of carbon problems for us, and making concrete has the same effect. You have to grind up, you have to do, it just is energy intensive and creates a lot of carbon dioxide. Whereas we can now, using an ancient resource, wood, with strand planking and work, we can build 4-story, 5-story, 6-story buildings of scale and put our offices or joint offices or even apartments in that scale. It's a lot easier on the mind and the body to be in a building or walking on a street where the building is of that scale. However, I suspect that it is the ego of those that want to build the biggest, tallest building in the world or have the largest building. I'm very suspect of those buildings. They eat up a lot of energy. They took a lot of energy, and they are Anyway, so that's my idea, and I am curious what you think. Will it happen overnight? I think it has started. I think we are starting to think about it, and I would like to know what you think. Are you curious? What ideas would you come up with about creating a combination of what the best of both? Thank you very much, and always show up. Take care, Jeffrey.